Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Domino. On this episode, we talk with actor, singer, speaker, wellness trainer, and Metis advocate, Andrea Menard. Her work reflects her cultural heritage and ancestral wisdom. Through her music, acting, and TEDx talks, Andrea shares her artistry and storytelling to amplify the voices of residential school survivors, families of the missing and murdered Indigenous women, and Indigenous communities. Her performances for royal, prime ministers, and NATO generals show the power of art and culture in promoting dialogue, understanding, and healing. She's got a great story. Enjoy this interview.
Again, it's great to meet you. And before we get into your life, very busy life of being creative, I want to know, the last 3 years with the pandemic did its own thing to all of us, and I'm curious how you survived that time period and how it's changed the way that not only you live your life, but the way that you conduct business now that the world's waking up.
Oh, good question. I know you asked that one. So
yes.
I would say that for me, COVID actually was amazing. The lockdown was amazing for me. And I'll explain, because prior to the big lockdown and the big shock to our global system, I had my own mini lockdown. It's like my life sort of started to fall apart. You know, when you go through phases where partner relationship ends and then your house, that ends, and then you go and get a new place, but you put that in storage because you're going to go on tour and you have all this stuff lined up. Well, all of that happening to me before COVID. And when COVID hit, I suffered for about the first month. I had, like everyone else, but in many ways, I got over it really quickly because I'd already been going through this survival terror, I guess you could say. And by the time that first shock went over, when people were just starting to, because I'm in the entertainment and, speaking industry, so we were the first to go. Everything went, right? But because we were the first at it, and I'd been at this for a while, suffering loss and going through my pain and terror on my own, by the time people were really hitting their terror, I was already through my. And the part of me that would have never done this, I went online and sort of came out of the coaching, not that I'm a coach, but the teaching closet. And I started these circles and these courses and things online because I really, really wanted to be of service to help people. People were really suffering. And so it's like I came out of the closet and started this other part of me. I started showing up as this teacher, trainer, more than I ever had, and it's sort of stuck. So I have to say that even though I didn't, because I'm a performer by trade, I'm an actor and a singer, but the teacher and the speaker in me sort of took over during COVID, and I think it was my life had been preparing me for this time so I could be of service in the highest way.
It's interesting. I interviewed a lot of jazz musicians. It's one of the things that I do a lot, and I interviewed more than I ever did before in 2020, and I really felt like jazz, of all the art forms, was made for that time period, was made for jazz musicians. You're thrown into the unknown. You got to make something sound good and look good, and they do that all the time. And that's what we had to do during our proverbial pivot, so to speak. So let me ask you this. If you break your day down and you got a lot going on, but if you were in front of a bunch of third graders right now and one of them asked you, what do you do for a living? How would you answer them?
Oh, I like that question. I would say that I am here to be the best human being that I could be. I want to leave this planet better than when I came into it. And that involves listening to my intuition, listening to my ancestors. See, I'm a Metis woman, so maybe you're not familiar with what that is, or your listeners down in the States. But in Canada, we have 3 Indigenous peoples, and we have First Nations, which you consider Native American. We have Métis people, and we have Inuit people. I am Métis, one of the indigenous groups of this place. So we are deeply connected to the land. We are deeply connected to our ancestors, and we know that life is deeply interconnected. So if I live my best life, if I choose to be someone following a higher path, following the red road, following the gifts and sharing the gifts that I have been given, and that the grandmothers and the grandfathers in the spirit realm guide me, then I'm going to leave this place a better planet than when I leave.
So what did you want to be when you were in the third grade? What was your dream?
Ooh, well, I think I always knew I was a singer, but I didn't really think that was a job you could do. Like, I didn't think it was open to me. Maybe it's because I was a Metis kid. Maybe it's because my dad wasn't really allowed to follow that dream of his, because he wanted to be he wanted to be the next Buddy Holly. But he didn't know he could follow that path. So maybe I didn't realize it was open to me. But if I look back now, oh my gosh, back then, I didn't know what I was allowed to be because of the training that, women get, girls get, and especially Indigenous girls get. It didn't seem like there was a lot of options open to me. However, when I look back as an adult and I look at the gifts and the and the skills I had, it's so obvious who I was meant to become that I'm sure teachers and everyone around me knew what I was to become before I did.
So let's go more back into your history and the beginnings, and tell me how the seeds of creativity and performance and entertaining people, how did all of that manifest and get into you to become who you are today?
Well, I would say that, just like I just mentioned, you have these gifts, you have these skills that you take for granted. But when you're a bush kid, a Métis kid from the bush, you don't necessarily know that the regular paths are open to you. So many kids, parents and teachers knew that some kids were just on a train to go to university or to, fill in their life path. But I was not one of those people. There wasn't a track laid open for me. I didn't have parents who understood that track. I didn't have teachers that knew I didn't, who didn't seem to understand. So I missed all the deadlines for university. I didn't recognize that track. So I went in an opposite direction, where I actually worked for 2 years and realized I had no creative outlet. And it wasn't until I realized how devoid of joy I was that I realized I think I'm a creative person. I thought I was self-aware, but maybe not that self-aware. I had no idea how much I expressed myself in a creative way until I was in a position or a job that did not allow it. And I was suffering. And I think that was the first time I'd really had an existential crisis time of suffering. So it was there that I realized I wanted to go into drama or something at university, still not knowing that was like an actor or a singer was a job for me. I just thought maybe I could teach it or I could do this about it, because that was more creative. And it wasn't until I went to university that all of that opened up to me. Like, my whole world of the arts opened up to me. I got my first film gig. I got my first band together. I had gigs, and I got my first recording done, and I did my first plays. I did first TV appearances. So it was this whole wild understanding that actually the arts live in small communities in Canada as well as Hollywood. I thought, well, everyone just has to go to Hollywood if you're an artist. I was educated widely once I got to the place I was supposed to be and surrounded by people who were artists and creative. So once I arrived there, I can tell you that, like I said, my world opened up, and that's when the dreams started to appear. That's when I went, oh, I want this. I want to do that. I want more of this. I want this. So it's like I didn't have the dreams to start with. It's like I needed to be open and shown the path. Then I could go in and break rules and change it and move, but you had to be shown it first. And I proceeded to do that. And along the line, I've been in this career for 30 years. I call myself a medicine wheel. A medicine wheel, if you're not familiar, is a symbol that many Indigenous peoples from all over Turtle Island, which is North America, use to symbolize our way of looking at the world. And it has the four quadrants in a circle, which are equal. And one of them you could look at it as the four directions, east, west, north, south. You could say the four sacred elements, the four sacred medicines, the four sacred bodies, right? Well, I am a medicine wheel myself, and when I realized that I was more than a singer and more than an actor, I was an actor, singer, and a writer, and then I realized that I was an actor, singer, writer, speaker, messenger. I went, oh, of course. So when I'm doing all four of these parts of me, I'm at my best. And it took a long time to fully walk into that understanding of who I am. But after 30 years in the business of performing and speaking and writing and sharing my gifts, I'm figuring some stuff out.
So let me ask you this. What was the first piece of art, whether performance or otherwise, that really moved you and made you think, I love this. I either want more or I want to do it myself?
Well, I think there were lots along the way, but the one that changed my life was a character that started haunting me. It was like she came into my consciousness, sort of whispering in my ear, and she was this character, this almost not quite vaudeville, but a star of the stage from the 1930s and 40s, and I was like, who are you? It was like she was my alter ego, but I didn't understand. And because of her persistent presence, I wrote a one-woman show for her, where she could express herself. And that show, The Velvet Devil, became a radio show. It became a CD. It became a made-for-television movie. So it's like she was my emancipator. She took me from not like this bush kid, not knowing anything about any of these industries, because I just mentioned four industries there. The industry of radio. I did a play. So first of all, I did a play. So that was the theater world that I had to navigate and learn how to do. Then a radio play, when I had to navigate that, and then a CD and learning what's a grant, how do you get money to, what's a budget, all these things, do a CD, and then I did the made-for-television movie with a film production company that I knew nothing about. What's an option? How do you option my show? I don't know anything. So it's like this bush kid, because of the help of this character pushing me forward, I had the courage to go into each of those genres, each of those industries as a greenhorn, and come away with experience and understanding. So everything else I've done has been a semi-repeat from those first blasting my obstacles open from those first years. So The Velvet Devil was my crowning achievement, and and because I loved this character so much and I loved the story, it was about a Metis girl from Batoche, Saskatchewan, which is the last place of a battle on Canadian soil between the Canadian government and the Metis people. And this little girl from Batoche who runs away to the big city to become a star, and she turns her back on her people and then her mother, and she comes home for the first time after her mom has passed away to sort of, pay the piper, to come and figure out that she was never not this Métis girl. She was always both, her mother's daughter and the Velvet Devil, the star of the stage. So because of the Velvet Devil, I was able to live a much bigger life in the industries than I ever dreamed.
So let me ask you this. If you could meet anybody alive on the planet right now and spend some time with them, who would it be?
Oh my. Say that again? What was the question?
If you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now and spend a little time with them, meet anybody, who would it be?
I think I'd like to spend some time with Michelle Obama and Oprah. I think I'd like to spend some time with those goddesses, because Oprah is a big supporter of writers, and because of, one of the reasons why I'm doing, out there in the world with these podcasts is because I'm also releasing this deck of cards, right? This deck of medicine cards that, is my first real publication, is my first attempt at writing. And so in many ways, Oprah made her book clubs and her potentials. Like, she just sort of set writers on fire. She set women, of color on fire, and she helped us believe that we had a space in the wider landscape. We had a voice that needed to be shared. So it was really, I would love to spend some time with them and talk about my new deck.
Yeah, for sure.
And of course, all the, like Michelle Obama, like, talk about her books, like, and all the good she's creating in the world.
Yeah, for sure. So let me ask you this. Every day you get up, there's always motivators that get us through the day and accomplish what we want to get done. What is the ultimate motivator for you?
I truly want to be of service to the planet. And as I said before, I'm a medicine wheel, which means I have different gifts and offerings in my life as a singer, my life as an actor, my life as a speaker, my life or a teacher, and my life as a writer. And I never know what is going to be demanded of me next. I don't know who I'm meant to be or what the world needs of me next. And during COVID, I recognized that my writer, my teacher, my thought leader, my trainer was needed in a big way. And I thought, oh, okay. And so I follow what is needed next. I follow the signs and my intuition about what's needed next. So, for instance, my acting and singing was on hold for many years, a little bit before COVID and during. And then I started creating and writing from the teacher part of me, from the trainer part of me. And then now that some of those things have been released to the world or about to be released to the world, it's like my actor and singer have room to come back. So I'm in all these projects again, so it's like I needed that space to be of service in this new way and to get practice at it and get better at it, just like I'm experienced in the other realms. So I have to say that it really is an intuitive way of living. I follow what is needed next. I follow what I'm called to do next, where my joy leads me. And usually, when I'm led always to the right place and the right time and the right gig and the right experience or the right offering, whatever I'm here. So sometimes I'm creating a Michif language album, or I'm writing a play, or I'm creating a course, but whatever it is, I attack it with the same zeal and joy because that's the next thing I'm meant to do.
So of all the things that you've created and achieved in your life, what are you the proudest of?
Well, like I said, The Velvet Devil was the first, so that was pretty big. But I have to say, I think I was pretty proud of myself of writing my first course. It's called Matriarchs in Training, and then Reclaiming the Four Goddesses. And the Matriarchs in Training course was my first one doing it Zoom. And I have to say, it brought out all these different skills in me, and to recognize that I actually could do it. I actually could create the intimate spaces that I do when I'm live. I could actually create those intimate spaces where people develop deep, deep, deep trust in a group setting that totally surprised me. So I'm really proud of that. And I guess I'm also proud of this deck of cards because the seeds from the Sacred Feminine have been with me for 5 years, and it's like they have been waiting for the time to be right to be released to the world. And because it's the first Metis deck of its kind, because I'm working so closely with a Metis sister, Leah Dorian, whose paintings are just exquisite. We both work with the grandmothers, in the spirit realm, with that intuitive guidance, and we both work, but from different mediums. So when we came together to create this deck of cards, and they're finally ready to be released to the world, it's pretty exciting. It's pretty satisfying. So I guess the new things that are exciting to me right now, like I have 5 albums and I have several TV series and all these things, because, they're all new right now, too. I have a new show I'm doing, Rub-a-Boo, a play that's touring Canada. I have a new show on Canadian television called Sullivan's Crossing. So, but they're not necessarily new to me, those realms, but the deck of cards and the new courses are new to me. So they're my latest and most exciting achievement, I guess you could say.
So what's been one of the best fan letters you've ever gotten from the work you've done?
Oh, I think it was when I was doing The Velvet Devil, and an audience member waited and waited, and so it wasn't a letter, but it was a face-to-face expression. But she waited and waited and waited until, I sold CDs, and, back when we had CDs. Waited and waited and waited, and until the very last person, we were packing up, and she waited to tell me, "You helped me say goodbye to my mother who's passed. We left on the worst of terms, and I thought I was going to forever be troubled by that relationship and that guilt of having ended it so terribly. But your show helped me recognize that I could talk to her and that I could let her go and that I could forgive her and she could forgive me. Is that it's not the end. Is that relationships with people on the spirit realm don't end. They can continue. And so that was a huge thing, because that's, what I create of the show is one thing, but how somebody else takes it and the medicine that is made because of their experience, that's gold.
Absolutely. So everyone out there has a perception of you, family, friends, fans, but ultimately you are in control of your life. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I am a seeker of light. I care deeply about becoming a better human being. Like I said, when I leave the planet, I want to have no regrets. I want to have lived a life that was of service to the planet, to other beings, to my gifts that I've been given. And I would say that I am courageous when it comes to facing my darkness. I am able to be a good expressor on stage because I have traveled those dark realms to face myself. And that's what helps me. It helps me help others do the same, to not be as frightened of those dark phases of our life. We're like the moon, I teach people. We can't all be the full moon at all the times where we're glowing and shiny and beautiful to look at. Sometimes we're the dark night of the moon where we lay in shadows and we are frightened and scared and not glowing in a way that is shiny and beautiful. So yeah, I would say I'm courageous that way.
Yeah, no, I really like that answer. So with all of the things that you do and that you're involved with, anyone out there that wants to get involved with any and all of the facets of your existence, where can they go? Where's the best place?
Well, they could go to AndreaMenard.com, which is my website, so that's where there's a lot of who I am is in there. So everything I am is at AndreaMenard.com. But for my company that I do my courses and circles and online circles through is the Sacred Feminine Learning Lodge. But they can find that at AndreaMenard.com too. But it's SacredFeminineLearningLodge.com.
Andrea, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for taking time out and giving us your story. I really appreciate it. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you for having me, Joe.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, spirituality, and more from around the globe. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.